The second episode of the first season of President Cortis is finally here, and it starts with some kids playing on the beach. However, one of them overdoes it with his strength and throws the frisbee way too far. When the little girl tries to go get it back, she ends up bumping into a massive dead sea monster right on the shore, and the lifeguards quickly arrive to pull her out. But right before they can get her out of there, two police officers show up and say that the girl is a direct witness and can't leave. This is where a real fight over authority breaks out, since the Coast Guard wants to take over the case too, but the FBI pulls up not long after, flashing their badges to tell everyone else to back off and completely forget they ever saw this. Before they can take full custody of the monster, two CIA agents pop up and try to tell them to get lost. That's when one of the FBI agents flips his badge, revealing he's actually one of the Men in Black, a secret organization that handles stuff like this and whose authority tops everything else. But it's not over yet, because one of the CIA agents isn't just a Man in Black, he's a Man in Black Plus, a rank they definitely have to respect. However, it doesn't end here, as a helicopter quickly lands, and the president steps out to tell them he's sorry for taking so long. But when he heard that a sea monster washed up on the beach, he just couldn't wait to see it for himself. After this, the scene shifts to the Oval Office, where the team is carefully analyzing the odds of the Loch Ness monster showing up on such a crowded beach, all the way on the other side of the world. But that's not even the weirdest part. A sea monster in Miami isn't really that big of a news story. What's actually weird is that the monster is wearing a prison jumpsuit, and Banks knows damn well they're hiding something from her. This is when the president decides to come clean and reveal that there's a top-secret, maximum security prison hidden in the Bermuda Triangle, a place where all the world's undesirables have been sent, and one that's supposedly completely impossible to break out of. This place is packed with everything she could possibly imagine. In fact, they even managed to build anti-ghost walls, since ghosts kept busting out of normal prisons. But the most alarming part is that this isn't the first escape, it's the fourth one in 3 years, and every single one happened on his watch. So they have to fix this ASAP and not let the problem fall on the next administration. What the president has uncovered is that the 4 individuals who escaped from the prison were marked as deceased in the records. But this happened right before the breakout actually went down, so they need to talk to the warden straight away, since he's almost certainly in on it. But if they're going to pull this off, they have to move smart and keep it real quiet. So O'Doyle is going to infiltrate the prison as a regular inmate and dig up the information they need. After that, he'll send them a clear signal, and the president will roll up with the Marines to put the trash where it belongs. There's just one major problem with that plan. O'Doyle is half leprechaun, and that means he straight up can't lie, so it's practically impossible for him to pull off a cover-up like this. But the president decides to take the gamble anyway. He keeps pushing his buttons and insulting him over and over until O'Doyle decks him right in the face, which will be more than enough proof to ship him off to the Bermuda Triangle, where he'll be rubbing shoulders with the most dangerous criminals on the planet. Once he gets there, they throw him into a triangle-shaped prison, just as you'd expect. On one side, he's next to a monster that looks like a giant wart, and on the other, he's got the famous Slender Man, who got busted for luring young girls into the woods so they'd kill each other, though in the end, they actually set up a sting to nail him for tax evasion instead. While O'Doyle and the rest of the criminals are being shipped out to the Bermuda Triangle, Air Force One is hovering right above them, and the crew is getting fully prepared to back O'Doyle up if things go south. As for the president, he's getting in shape just in case things get dirty down there. The training machine lets him know he's faster than a velociraptor, but still slower than a baby gorilla. So he's got to keep pushing himself hard to reach dragon level. The bad news hits when they reach the outer edge of the Bermuda Triangle, a place where no plane that size could ever survive. So they immediately drop an umbilical tether down to a Cessna light aircraft to swap vehicles on the fly. The tiny plane takes on the most important person in the country, along with his biomodified assistant, and that's when we find out their pilot is none other than Amelia Earhart herself, the famous woman who crossed the ocean only to vanish over 50 years ago. Turns out she got stuck in the Bermuda Triangle right after her famous journey, and she's been flying in circles ever since, mostly because she doesn't seem to age at all. And for today, she's gonna be their personal taxi. Amelia tells them to buckle up because they're about to hit the dangerous Sharknado zone, which means a whole swarm of winged sharks using nearby tornadoes to dive bomb them won't be easy to take down at all. Luckily, former President Roosevelt gifted her a pair of heavy machine guns for her plane, and her aim has gotten pretty damn sharp over time. A few seconds later, A massive monster that looks straight out of Cloverfield shows up, but Amelia's got enough rockets to blow it out of the sky and get the president closer to his stop. The only problem is she's not allowed to land, or all those missed years will hit her at once and turn her into a pile of bones, so the president's gonna have to jump for it. Once they manage to touch down at the prison, they're officially greeted by the warden, a guy named Jeffries, who was a Marine for most of his life and served during the brutal war in Okinawa, earning the respect of the president, who's starting to seriously second-guess whether this guy is actually the corrupt one after all. Right as they're pulling up, the prison transport arrives at the drop-off zone, where we see the girl from The Ring get out first, followed by the Wart Monster and Slender Man. On top of that, there's a couple of Sasquatches and a few other creatures you'll definitely recognize from classic 80s movies. While the head guard gives them a warm welcome, we can catch the Chupacabra slinking right behind him. And then there's a massive pile of babies, which makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. But anyway, let's keep moving with the plot. The very first one to cause trouble is Dracula, forcing one of the guards to whip out an electrified crucifix so he'll behave himself during intake. So O'Doyle ends up walking right over his scorched body before getting dragged off to the showers, where they gotta clean up fast to move along with the process. Back with the president, Jeffries is being super nice to him and proudly showing off his top warden trophy, which is super sharp and could totally pierce his skull if it ever fell off its shelf. But he isn't worried about that one bit. Curtis asks him about the recent prison breaks. It's definitely not normal for this to happen, and Jeffries confesses that while he has 1,000 guards under his command, he can only truly trust 50 of them thanks to their shared background as Marines. However, the rest are total wildcards, and believe it or not, these monsters have massive bank accounts that can easily sway anyone. One of them actually offered him immortality in exchange for letting him escape, and being as old as he is, trust me, he had to give it some real thought. At the exact same time, O'Doyle is hanging out in the cafeteria, getting served a triangle-shaped meal, since that seems to be the running theme all over this place. There, he meets a super sweet and innocent-looking girl who walks over to say hi, only to ask him how hard he's gonna scream when she rips the skin off his bones and devours his guts, revealing that she's got a massive demon inside her and that the little girl act is just a cover. O'Doyle tells her that her plan isn't gonna work. He knows for a fact that she's a soul collector who can't attack unless he looks her straight in the eyes, so she can scram and let him finish his lunch. A couple of seconds later, a slightly scaled-down version of Cthulhu pops up to say hello and try to make friends. But O'Doyle is way too busy scanning the room, looking for a way to break out of this place, or at least get the attention of the dirty guards. That's right when another inmate, named Metalloid, notices the super valuable tech in his eyes and wants it for his personal collection. Just like prison rules dictate, O'Doyle isn't about to let himself be bullied, so he hits first, since the first hit always counts double, and completely knocks Metalloid out cold, so he doesn't try any more of his clever moves. Over in the arts and crafts section, where they're painting doors, Jeffries shows the team where the Loch Ness Monster broke out. It busted right through a triple-layered armored wall that was electrified, though the voltage wasn't high enough to stop it in its tracks. Banks asks about the doors, and Jeffries tells her it's a new initiative he picked up from a movie. He figured if you've got a prison packed with monsters, you might as well put them to work. However, Banks catches on that the president isn't being nearly objective enough because Jeffries is a Marine, and he absolutely loves Marines. So she decides to look into things on her own and lets them walk ahead. On the flip side, Cthulhu confesses to O'Doyle that he's got telepathy in his tentacles and knows his little secret. He knows he's working for the president and trying to figure out which guards are corrupt. At the exact same time, Banks sneaks into the trash dump, where she finds several bodies of other inmates that aren't even listed on the official records. So something super shady is definitely going on here. They're wiping out prisoners and erasing any trace that they ever existed. She also stumbles upon an android down there, which means she can plug into its memory bank using her own tech upgrades. And right after doing that, she can see step by step what happened to it. Turns out the android was brutally tortured, and the guy behind the whole thing is a guard named Hernandez. The bad news is that as soon as she stands up to get out of there, she runs straight into Humanite's dead body, putting her in a complete dead end. Back with O'Doyle, Cthulhu reveals that the guards tried to move the Loch Ness Monster into a restricted area of the prison, though there's no way he can get in there himself. But all of this is finally starting to make sense. That's why these inmates show up dead on paper before it actually happens. They get sentenced to death, someone tips them off, and they go crazy trying to break out. Before they can make it to that restricted area, a couple of guards step out and let them know their secret is out, and they won't be leaving alive, so they send Metalloid to take them down. However, O'Doyle lays another beating on him, leaving them no choice but to bring out the Chupacabra, who's bound to be a much bigger pain for both of them. One by one, our favorite secret agent handles every inmate they throw his way, and not a single one can take him down, so the guards start pulling out the high security block until one of them finally finishes the job. At the same time, the president is held hostage by the warden, who has finally decided to show his true colors, revealing that he really was the main villain of the story all along. By the time he wakes up, he finds himself strapped to a pink bed next to his right-hand man and the friendly Cthulhu. With all three of them about to be subjected to a crazy experiment, they definitely won't survive. After slamming a button, half a dozen razor-sharp daggers pop out from under the mattress, stabbing them all over, lightly, but hundreds of times, just to inflict maximum pain. Turns out, Jeffries is pulling all this off because he's completely obsessed with the movie Monsters, Inc., believing he can harvest their screams in canisters to sell off to weird fetishists who get off on pain. While the guys are being tortured to trap their screams into containers that look straight off the Titanic, Banks steals an officer's uniform and sneaks her way to room 213 to rescue them. The first thing she does is shock the guard, but it turns out his keycard doesn't work, so she's gotta hack the system and drop the door security overrides just to get inside the room. The issue is, as soon as she hooks into the security grid, it feels like she's burning up, so she just ends up popping every single door open instead of suffering through until she finds the right one, setting every inmate loose and sparking total, utter chaos across the entire facility. The lead guard who replaced Hernandez knows he's screwed, so he decides to duck into one of the cells, but he happens to pick Draculus, who's dying for revenge after his earlier embarrassment, so he turns into a bat, flies straight down his throat, and blows him up from the inside out. Banks uses all the chaos and distraction to save her crew, but they've gotta get out of there ASAP, since a prison packed with thousands of loose monsters is a total death sentence, and they've still got a whole country to run. Right at that exact second, a mutant minion busts straight through the wall, blasting a massive wall of fire out of its mouth. With Cthulhu tagging along, the team tries to make a break for it, shoving whoever they can back into their cells along the way, but things are about to get a whole lot worse real fast, because that soul harvester who tried to mess with O'Doyle earlier just showed back up. Luckily for them, they managed to reach the main deck, where Amelia Earhart slams her plane straight into the monster, grinding it into absolute mush with the propellers and giving the guys just enough time to get away. But first, they gotta deal with Jeffries, who's packing up his stuff to get the hell out of Dodge. When the president shows up to confront him, Jeffries admits he really was a Marine, but they kicked him out after he murdered his buddy, thinking he was just a toy after watching Toy Story, and says nobody's gonna stop him on his new mission, not even him. With a clean strike, the president manages to knock Jeffries down, but that's not actually what kills him. It's the trophy falling off the shelf and pinning him through the chest, exactly like Banks warned him it would. Back in the States, the president sets up a direct hotline straight from the Oval Office to the prison, and now Amelia Earhart is taking over as warden, planning to run things under a fresh set of rules since she can never leave anyway. The episode wraps up with Dracula thinking he's the new boss of the prison, but his only move to kill his target is flying into his mouth. So all the Demon King has to do is keep his mouth shut tight to defeat him and embarrass him once again, calling him the absolute worst villain in history.